Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we are once again going to be looking at Dorian, which is now turned into a hurricane, and it did make landfall today, or got really close to making landfall. I'm not sure if there was an official landfall, but it did go over the British Virgin Islands today, and parts of eastern Puerto Rico did get affected, but pretty much today we were expecting a tropical storm this morning to hit as a landfall, either over eastern Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands, and pretty much what did happen is it just rapidly intensified, and by this morning we had a hurricane before landfall. So the Virgin Islands and parts of really just the Virgin Islands, we saw a landfall today of a hurricane, and parts of eastern Puerto Rico are being affected a little bit, but really Puerto Rico was spared, which is amazing. That is awesome after Maria did come through 2 short years ago. We still may see some moisture, of course. That's usually what does happen with those outer bands. So we can't count out some outer bands and some rain coming in. So still be aware of the situation there. But most likely we are really spared there. Most likely we won't see terrible impacts. Even though y'all did prepare a lot, that is good. Now you have supplies for the next storm to come through. So some people might be saying, well, they made us buy all these supplies and nothing happened. Well, sometimes that can be a good thing because you're already prepared for the next system, or it's never too bad to be prepared for anything to happen, because I am assured, or I'm pretty sure, that we will see another tropical system come over here in the next 1 or 2 years, or maybe even this year again. So everybody should be prepared for the next system already. Overly prepared. So that is a very good thing. Over Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, you weren't spared. You did get hit pretty hard today. Some high wind gusts near 100 miles an hour I did see on the Weather Channel. Not sure if we saw more than that. But some pretty bad winds today there. Okay, if we were to go ahead and move on to the cone, you can see that right now we do have a hurricane of 80 miles an hour, and by tonight, or late tonight, or maybe very early tomorrow morning, this does say in the next 12 hours this was issued up. So around your 5 a.m., this does say that we should be at 85 miles an hour. We'll have to see if it's a little bit more than that. And pretty much in the next let's go to 2 days, you can see this has a 105 mile per hour storm. Now, if we were to go ahead and move on, later on down the line, when we get closer to land, closer to the U.S., around the Bahamas, you can see over the next 3 days we have 150 miles an hour. So this is what a Category 3 hurricane is, and it is a major hurricane, so that is not good news. It is expected to make landfall as a major hurricane. Right now they're saying a Category 3. I am pretty sure we could see more than that. They said they were just keeping it on the low end for now, just to be sure. They kind of want to know where they just kind of want to know where the track is. They want to put it in a little bit, zero in where it's supposed to go, or our vicinity, because right now you can see the whole state of Florida and parts of southern Georgia are under this cone. So if they were to see a major hurricane, everybody would be freaking out across this whole area, and also parts of the Gulf would be freaking out on the western coast. So they kind of just want to know where it's going to go before they put out huge, big forecasts, so not everyone freaks out, even if you're in parts of southern Georgia or maybe even near southern South Carolina. Now, once we get in central Florida, it has it around 100 miles an hour, so that is still very strong at a Category 2 hurricane. Now, pretty much, it should be around here, and it could be anywhere where I did draw this line. So at this time, it could be anywhere along that line. Same with this area. It could be anywhere along there, anywhere along there, and anywhere along there, and also anywhere along there. So really anywhere where I drew those lines is where you'll see those, where the possibility of impacts is possible. Right now you can see this is where they're expecting a track right now. That's where their expected track is right now, but that will definitely change. This already has been a little south than yesterday, and you will see how the model trends have been. But at the end of this cone, you can see it does enter the Gulf. The chance that it's going to go south of Florida has really lowered, and the chance that it's going to go up the southeast coast has really lowered quite a bit. But we are expecting it to hit Florida most likely, and then aim into the Gulf possibly, which is not good. We could see redevelopment and a really bad hurricane hit the Gulf Coast also, which I will cover. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go on to the hurricane and the hurricane models, or global models, hurricane models, that's what they're called. And you can see this is tonight, the 18Z update this evening, I should say, and you can see how a lot of the models do stay together until the Bahamas. Now, once we hit the Bahamas, they do split a little bit, and you can see how some of them go into southern Georgia, and some of them go towards southern Florida. But if we look at the bulk of these, you can see how most of them do go through here. So if you're anywhere in that part of Florida, around central, southern Florida, somewhere in the middle, that's where we could see a landfall happening, and you can see how it does go into the Gulf, and it looks like it just stay out for a little bit, and then it could make landfall. So we could have a window for it to really intensify once it hits the Gulf again. Really warm waters, not much wind shear, nothing to really get in the way of this system once it gets into the Gulf. And you can see if it does take this southern track, it has a lot of time to redevelop before it hits where along the Florida Panhandle, or it could even curve back and hit the western part of Florida, make landfall there. So there are a lot of possibilities once it does enter the Gulf, but we are going to have to see. Some of them do just keep it going inland a little bit, which is definitely a possibility. We can't rule that out. So we're actually going to go ahead and move on to the 12Z for the GEFS, the GFS ensembles, because this really hasn't updated for some reason it's only 544. What am I saying? And so you can see how a lot of these models do have it going over southern Florida. So if this was to go across southern Florida, you can see how a lot of them some of them do take it across the Florida Panhandle. But if it was to go this south, a lot of them do take it into the Louisiana area. So we could see a track something like this and then something like that, which is quite a big part of a hurricane, because we could be seeing so many landfalls with this system. That does not happen much. We usually see one landfall, maybe two sometimes, and then we're done with it. We could be seeing quite a few landfalls with this. Now, the one thing I do see right here that is a little off is where the models are still over Puerto Rico right here, which is not true. This was the 12Z update. We don't have the 18Z in, but I do imagine that everything's going to be a little bit more north, just a little bit more north, and it should be somewhere, the bulk of the models should be somewhere around here if I'm doing it right. And a landfall from the Gulf could be anywhere in between here, between your Florida Panhandle into the Alabama, Mississippi coast, also into the Louisiana coast. So we do have another area where we're going to have to watch after this. Just when we're starting to get figured out for Florida, a lot of stuff does happen. A lot of other stuff is possible. Now, once we move on to the CMC or the GEPS, this is the CMC ensembles, and this is not very trustworthy, but you can see how a lot of the models, I just do want to show this, do make that landfall across central and southern Florida and do take it into the Gulf. So these are some other models that are showing where it could go into the Gulf and make landfall again. Now, once it does into the Gulf, as I did say, there is a huge chance that it could redevelop and could be a worse hurricane than it was when it hit eastern Florida. But you can see how a lot of the models do take it up the southeast coast once it makes landfall. I definitely don't think that is going to happen, but it still is a possibility. It's not ruled out. But right now, I do think we could see a central or southern Florida, or maybe even northern Florida, anywhere across Florida landfall. Then it should move into the Gulf, or at least that's what I am expecting right now. Sorry for my dog barking. Someone just got home. He'll stop in a minute. Okay, 18Z. Yes, this should work. So you can see on this model, we are already on a hurricane. So yesterday, 2 days ago, or yesterday pretty much, we were saying it might just stay a tropical storm. We don't know. But right now, none of the models really go into that tropical storm. Like a few do, but you know how those can be. That probably won't happen. But you can see how most of the models do take it up to that Category 3 strength. Now, yesterday, we only saw one model going up into the Category 3. Now, that is what's happening here across the Category 4. You can see how a few models are peaking up to that Category 4 strength. And you can see how a lot of the models have been progressively going up throughout the past few days. So, a Category 4 landfall could not be ruled out. A Category 5 could not be ruled out. You never really do know. So, we are going to have to watch this. Now, the one thing that we do need to make sure we look at is some of these that do peak it up, and then once it makes landfall, take it down. Now, the one thing that we were supposed to be looking at, if you can remember, was that East Florida hits a landfall, and then as it goes through Florida, it goes down a little bit. Then when it hits the Gulf, it should go up a little bit more. Now you can see how some of these models do that. You can kind of see how this one peaks a little bit after landfall. Some of these definitely do that, and you can see how it flattens and then it kind of peaks up. So that is an indication of at least a few models. Here's one more too. If we were to look at it, you can kind of see how it's a little bit like that and not as much. But some of these models do take it up, flatten it out, or maybe even take it down a little bit and then take it back up. Some of these models do that, which is what we are kind of looking at if it was to go into the Gulf, which I do expect it to go into the Gulf. It's not out of the picture. Okay, so I think that's the end of the spaghetti models. Yes, we finally ended them. And if we were to go ahead and look over here, at your rain and thunder, we're going to move across here. This is tropical depression. I don't know if they kept the name. I'm pretty sure they did. I'll make sure. I think that is, yeah, okay, yeah, it keeps its name. So tropical depression Aaron is right here. It was a tropical storm late last night around 11 p.m. to about 11 a.m. this morning, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the 2 p.m. update. But it's already back down to a tropical depression, and it should turn back into a tropical storm. And there are some concerns that it could get really close, dangerously close to the U.S. You can see how this is kind of what the cone looks like, and you can see how close it does get. So maybe some coastal flooding, a little bit, minor flooding, or it could bring a lot of rain into here. So maybe some coastal flooding, not too terrible, hopefully, and then some minor rain and some outer rain bands that could be coming up into there. As you can see, the European model has it getting near there, so that is a little bit of a concern. I'm going to make a separate video on that soon, but right now we really just need to focus on Dorian the most. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So you can see right now it is across your northeast of Puerto Rico pretty much. You can see how earlier it made landfall near Puerto Rico, and the eastern side was the closest to it. Most of Puerto Rico, once again, was spared. And you can see by your Thursday, it really does start to move pretty fast. By your Friday, we're north of the Turks and Caicos Islands, pretty east of the Bahamas. You can kind of see how we're out in the open sea. We really don't have much interaction with land, which does mean we are getting a lot of rapid intensification because we really don't have much in a way. A little bit of wind shear, which is not really going to do anything against this big system. So a little bit drier, but nothing that'll be able to tear the system really apart. Okay, if we were to keep going into your Saturday, and this is by your Saturday night, you can see it is dangerously close to the Bahamas. Pretty much here, the outer bands are reaching here by your Saturday night. Now, this storm has progressively been slowing down a little bit with the past few model runs. We could, on some of the models, see a landfall on your Sunday, and a lot of the models are making a landfall on Monday, which is actually what the National Hurricane Center is making, is pretty much making their landfall. So this would be September 1st, which I'm pretty sure is our Labor Day this year. No, it's September 2nd is our Labor Day. So you can see how we're fairly close to a Labor Day landfall. It's not, I mean, I just thought that'd be a little weird if it would make landfall on Labor Day, but anywhere from your Sunday to your Monday is when we do make landfall in the U.S. But you can see how we do make landfall across the Bahamas on your Sunday. And by your Sunday night, it treks really close. And then by your Sunday night, it should be coming into a lot of these areas. Yesterday, the European model was way more north, or not way more, but it was up here. And you can see how the main of it is down here. So we did move down quite a bit when it does come to this. And you can see how this does make landfall your Sunday night. So this is terrible timing. Yesterday I was talking about the European model was really good timing. And it really, I had some hope because it really wasn't doing, was making a afternoon landfall. But this has it making a night landfall and everyone's asleep, which I'm sure no one will be sleeping or everybody was already evacuated. And you can see how it does make landfall near Fort Lauderdale, somewhere across there, Boca Raton, Palm Beach. And you can see how it does move pretty quickly. And by your Monday night, it's across western Florida, across North Point, Cape Coral. Once again, we could make landfall anywhere across here. So anywhere in this area is what it could be looking like. Most likely somewhere in Florida, but Georgia is still not ruled out. So we cannot rule them out as of the 5 p.m. update, of course. Now, this does have it moving out by your early Tuesday morning. And you can see once it hits the Gulf, it already looks a little bit more intense. Like the second it hit the Gulf, it was already looking a little bit more intense. Now by your Tuesday, you can see how this does start to get more intense progressively. Then by your Wednesday, this is huge. Now, I don't want to say it right now. I really don't want to say this, but okay, we got to look at this because Michael just affected a lot of these areas last year, and it's looking like, I don't want to say it, but some areas that were affected by Michael could be affected again just when last year we just got hit, which is not good. You can see how this does have it making landfall from Pensacola to Crestview, Destin, Panama City, Apalachicola, and you can see how your GFS model is a little bit different. You can see how it's inland, and you can see how the GFS model, has it making landfall in northern Florida, and then it goes through your Georgia area, and then it kind of just hangs out there for a second in Georgia, and then it goes west into Alabama. So you can kind of see how this is a little weird. It's looking really weird. But right now I'm really trusting the European model, and we're going to keep going on with the European model. We're going to go back to the Tuesday or Wednesday time frame. So once we're back on your Wednesday around 5 a.m., we're going to zoom back in, and you can see once again anywhere across Apalachicola, Panama City, Pensacola, Tallahassee, Blountstown, Destin, Crestview. You can see how it's dangerously close to you, and this has it making landfall pretty much right on Pensacola or around your Destin area, kind of in between. And if we were to keep moving into your Thursday, it does make landfall. And if we were to look at the winds, they're probably really intense. If we were to look at your wind gusts, oh my gosh, 125 mile per hour wind gusts, which is insane. If we were to look at your regular sustained winds, they aren't as intense, but usually with these models, it's a little they kind of underestimated a little bit with the European model and really any model most of the time. But I'm going to tell you, we should see really bad winds. And you can see how once this moves inland, the rain really does stay with it. And then by your Friday the 6th on your September, you can see how this moves inland around Alabama, parts of western Georgia. And I'm guessing it should move anywhere between here and here. So if you're anywhere in that track, you definitely do need to watch out, because that could be where it goes next after this. Just with this model, we're not saying this is a definite where this is going. If you were to look at your GFS, it's way different. It is, if you look at it closely, it's up here. So it's way different when you go on the GFS. So we still have a lot of uncertainty. Things are getting, we're starting to see things a little bit better, but things are still really uncertain right now. But right now, it's looking like we should see a Florida landfall, definitely, looking very likely. Somewhere along the Florida East Coast is where we should see it first. Really bad rains, really bad wind gusts. You can see the wind gusts are insane, around 130 in the middle of it, right there at it. And you can imagine how big that eye will be. So whoever the center of the storm goes over, I would want to be there, but I wouldn't want to be there. I would want to be there for the eye, but other than that, no. Please no. And if we were to go to your rain and thunder, in your rain accumulation, if we were to go over the next 10 days, you can see how this rainfall really does drop a lot over such a short period of time too. If you're in that bullseye, you could be seeing anywhere from 6 inches to maybe a foot of rain. Across Florida, there's still at 2 to 4 inches where you're not seeing it directly over you. And you can see once it hits the Florida Panhandle or the Alabama coast, maybe even parts of the Mississippi coast, it drops almost a foot or more of rain in some areas. And then once it moves inland towards Alabama, we're still seeing quite a bit of rain. Birmingham, there's about 6 inches for you. And this should move somewhere across anywhere. And, well, let's actually move that window, because you never know where it could make landfall. Actually, let's do this. If you're anywhere in there, that's where the European could be shifting over the next few days. But somewhere in there is where we will see our Gulf impacts northward. And if you're anywhere in this area over here, you need to be watching out too. So Florida, major Florida hurricane could be hitting somewhere across central and southern Florida right now is what we are expecting. Then it should move into the Gulf and make landfall somewhere across the Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, or Florida panhandle across the coast. And then it should move inland somewhere and cause a lot of inland flooding also, and some strong winds as we are closer to the coast. Okay, guys, I hope y'all did enjoy this video. This was a pretty long video today, but I do appreciate if you did stick around in it, or if you did skip a little bit, that is absolutely fine. But I hope that you did get all the information you needed today. Even though it's a long video, I really do want to keep people safe. So I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, and if you're in the path of this, evacuate now. Well, not right now, but once we get in your 2 to 3 day time frame, you need to be out of there. But have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video tomorrow.